हेलो फ्रेंड्स, आप लोगों का इन्वायरमेंट मास्टर यूट्यूब चैनल में स्वागत है। वी आर डिस्कसिंग अबाउट द इन्वायरमेंटल साइंसेज एंड इंजीनियरिंग सब्जेक्ट फॉर गेट एग्जाम्स। दिस part of subject can also be used for the civil engineering where the questions has been asked from environmental engineering portion. So the first phase of that subject we are discussing that the water and wastewater engineering. My name is Rishabh Singh. So for this subject we have discussed about the water demands, its sources, conveyance, that has already been completed. Right now we are discussing about the water quality parameters. Water quality parameters has been bifurcated in a three parts. First one is the physical parameters, second one is the chemical parameter, and third one is the biological parameters. So in a physical parameters, that is the suspended solids, turbidity, color, taste and odor, and a temperature, that has already been talked in a previous lectures. Right now we are discussing about the chemical water quality parameters, in which 5 parameters has already been discussed in a previous 2 videos. So after that we are discussing about the nitrogen content, phosphorus, fluoride and metals in this video. So at first I am telling you that the questions has been asked for 1 marks questions from these 2 subjects, from these 4 topics, and maybe some questions asked for 2 marks, but those questions will be of theoretical portion, because there is not a numerical portions in this subject or in this part. So let's start. First one is the nitrogen content of water. So basically nitrogen and phosphorus are the nutrients basically. There is not a direct impact generally, but in some cases there is some impact for some kinds of populations or some kinds of organisms. So the presence of nitrogen indicates the pollution due to organic matter in a water. Basically the organic matter from some sources like the industrial activities, sewage treatment plant, agricultural runoff, or a fertilizer industries waste. So all these, if that has been decomposed or sent to the public water treatment facility, and those discharge has been come to the lakes or the river, then that will cause the problems of eutrophications and some other problems of the algal growth in the surface water sources. So basically there is a nutrient such as a nitrogen and a phosphorus are essential for the growth of terrestrial, aquatic plants and animals, but excess of these nutrients in a water causes the adverse health and environmental impact such as the blue baby disease, that is been already called also called the methaglobinemia, or the higher algal growth or algal bloom. So what is the problem with the algal bloom? When the algal bloom या algae or the eutrophication will take place in a lake, then the dissolved oxygen of the lake will be depleted, and if the dissolved oxygen of the lake or the water body is be depleted, then if that will fall below the 4 milligram per liter, then that will be harmful for the aquatic life like fishes and other types of organisms like the fish and other phytoplanktons or the planktons will die. So basically the sources of nutrients is the agricultural discharge, sewage discharge, industrial discharge, animal manure, slaughterhouse waste. Right now one more problem is taking that the soaps and a grey water discharge in a water body. So basically there is a phosphorus or the phosphate in a soap. When the water containing soap goes to the lake, then that will cause the problem of eutrophication and increases the productivity of a lake. So basically the nitrogen content of water can be bifurcated in a 4 parts. First one is a free ammonia, second is the organic ammonia, third one is nitrite, and fourth one is a nitrate. So basically the free ammonia will indicate the pollution of the recent activities, or it means that the water has been contaminated recently with the ammonical waste. As per IS 10500/2012, the permissible limit for that is 0.15 milligram per liter. And measurement methods are the boiling of water and measurement of the ammonia liberated. Basically, water is being taken in a distillation flask, and there will be a heating of that. Then the ammonia liberated will be recorded. There is not basically the disease called with this problem, but there are some indications of the pollution, and that water cannot be used for the drinking purposes. Basically, second is the organic ammonia. Organic ammonia is represented as the nitrogen content before the start of the decomposition. So, if there will be a ammonia in this system, or the nitrogen in a system before the decomposition of organic matter starts, then that will cause the organic ammonia or the albuminoid nitrogen. Basically, combinedly, these two are called the total Zeldol nitrogen. So basically, the combinedly these will be called the total Zeldol nitrogen. So basically, that is called the total Zeldol nitrogen. Third one is a nitrite. So basically, there will be a nitrite in a water. So nitrite is a very harmful or the dangerous substances, because that is not in a saturated condition, that is a partially decomposed condition. It is a prone to decomposition. When anyone consumes the nitrite, then it can go to inside our body and takes the oxygen from the blood very fast and causes the and accelerates the blue baby disease in a children. So basically, the limits for that 0 milligram per liter, and it can be find out by the color matching technique. Here is we have missed one thing, that is the measurement method for the organic ammonia is that water has been already boiled here, is taken, and then further boiling in the presence of the highly alkaline solution, that is the potassium permanganate or KMnO4. And nitrite can be found out by the color matching technique. In this, the color produced by the sulfonic acids plus naphthamine can be matched with the standard color produced. So that will represent the permissible limit, or that will represent the quantity of nitrate in a water. Basically, the blue baby syndrome or the methaglobinemia will be caused by the nitrate, but it will accelerated by the starting of the nitrite. So nitrate is a fully decomposed organic matter. The permissible limit of nitrate is 45 milligram per liter for the drinking purposes, and it can be measured by the color matching technique. So color produced by phenol disulfonic acid plus potassium hydroxide will be matched with the standard color produced. It can cause the disease named as the blue baby disease or the methaglobinemia. The next step is the phosphorus content. So phosphorus is also a nutrient. Basically, that is a limiting compound. So phosphorus is also a nutrient content, but that is a limiting. Actually, what is the concept of limiting? Because at every place we have taken the ratio of nitrogen versus phosphorus. So basically, in general the nitrogen is 7 to 12 times of the phosphorus. N by P will generally 7 to generally 13. Generally N by P will be 7 to 13. So basically nitrogen is generally 7 to 13 times of the phosphorus. So there is the phosphorus is at the lower quantity. So the concept is lower is minimum, because if we will talk about the growth, then at the point of if everything will be correct, if the everything will be correct, then on a verge of start of the growth, the substance that will be the minimum will cause the limiting effect or the higher impact on the growth of the things. So that is why the phosphorus will be the limiting compound in the growth of microorganisms as well as the plants. So basically the phosphorus content in water will be in the form of the phosphate molecules. Phosphate molecules will be the PO4 minus minus. So that will be in the form of the phosphate molecules. The its impact of is that it can cause the eutrophication of lake or a water body, depletion of dissolved oxygen and a visibility, losses of fishes due to the depletion of dissolved oxygen. Basically if the dissolved oxygen is less than the 4 milligram per liter, there is one thing, there will be a biodiversity loss. Basically the productivity of the lake, basically the productivity of lake will increases, but the biodiversity will decreases. How it can be happened? Because if there will be a certain type of ecosystem is there will be a number of organisms of N1 is A, N2 is B and N3 is C. So if there will be a N1, N2 and N3. Okay. So in this ecosystem, if there will be a different kinds of organisms like A, B and C have the number of N1, N2, N3, and here is also a one ecosystem where is only a microorganism A, but it has a total number is capital N, which is greater than N1, N2, N3. So let's focus here, because if we compare the two ecosystem here, so in a first ecosystem there will be a different types of microorganism A, B and C have the numbers N1, N2, N3. On the place of that, here is a ecosystem where is only a microorganism A have the number capital N, which is greater than both N1, N2, N3 and combinedly be maximum hai. But there will not be a biodiversity higher in the A. Biodiversity B will be maximum in the ecosystem here, because in a certain types of ecosystem there will be a different types of species of there. In the place of that, maybe there will be a numbers of lesser, but there will be a less number of particular species, but the number of species in a ecosystem will be higher, then that will cause the biodiversity. So if the eutrophication of lake will be higher, then maybe there will be a higher growth of only one or two types of species, but there will be a subsidence or there will be a loss of some types of species or the maximum type of species of lakes and other phytoplankton. So then there will be the overall biodiversity growth of the lake will decrease. That is the problem of phosphorus content in a water. So basically the phosphorus content in a water is basically found in a two ways, like the P is greater than 0.015 milligram per liter and nitrogen content is 0.3 milligram per liter, like the nearly 20 times of that. So that will cause the algal bloom in a water. Algal bloom, a saline layer will be there, or if that has been given by the Seaver in 1947. if P concentration is equals to 0.01 milligram per liter are acceptable and 0.02 milligram per liter is excessive. That has been given by the Wallenweider in 1975. Measurement procedure we will discuss after some time. So that will cause the disease to the ecosystem but not to the humans directly. That will cause the death of plague but no human impacts directly. So basically the measurement procedure of that. So the phosphorus is in the four forms. So we will measure the phosphorus in a 4 tests. First one is a test for the total orthophosphate, then the total phosphorus test, then the dissolved phosphorus test and the insoluble phosphorus test. So basically the orthophosphorus test is separate, but in a dissolved phosphorus test, or in a second test we will talk about here. Like if there will be a funnel, we will place one filter paper here. Okay. Okay. So there will be a conical flask and a funnel with a filter paper here. So if we will take the total test water and we check that phosphorus, then that will cause the total phosphorus test. But the water that has been passed through the filter paper and measures the phosphorus here, then that will call the soluble or the dissolved phosphorus, and the phosphorus that has been trapped here will be called the insoluble phosphorus or the suspended phosphorus test. So basically how the total phosphorus test will be performed. So if from the EPA approved method is there, so we will take the water sample layer, then we will put, because here largely a measure of orthophosphate, because the sample is not filtered, the procedure measures both the dissolved as well as the suspended orthophosphate. Okay. So this method is called the ascorbic acid method. This question can be asked in a 1 marks, that how the orthophosphate will be measured in a water. So that will be by the ascorbic acid method. So this method will be started that the reagent used that will be containing the ascorbic acid and ammonium molybdate. Okay. So ascorbic acid में ammonium molybdate reacts with the orthophosphate in the sample to form a blue compound. Okay. Then the intensity of the blue color is directly proportional to the amount of orthophosphate in a water. So the method is also here there, like the in a water sample measurement is there. Then the ammonium heptamolybdate, actually there will be the heptamolybdate we will use, like in the place of the molybdate here. Okay. So we will take the ammonium heptamolybdate, then we will put the dilute stannous chloride in that. Then the color produced will be checked by the absorbance after measuring the absorbance of the water. Then there will be a total phosphorus test, measures all the form of phosphorus in the sample, orthophosphate, condensed phosphate and organic phosphate. This is accomplished in the first digest the sample. Okay, actually in a digestion of sample we will put the acid. The acid will be nitric acid, we will put there acid, that acid will be HNO3. We will put the acid that is called the nitric acid to convert all the forms to orthophosphates, all the forms of phosphorus, that the condensed phosphate, organic phosphate to the orthophosphate. This is the method for called the digestion. Then the orthophosphate is measured by the ascorbic acid method, because the sample is not filtered. Okay. So ascorbic acid method we have also already discussed above. Then basically the dissolved phosphorus we will take and then use the same procedure. Then the difference between the total phosphorus and a dissolved phosphorus given the insoluble phosphorus in a solution. So basically we will at first measure the total phosphorus test. So total phosphorus test will be combinedly called the condensed phosphorus, orthophosphate and a organic phosphate. Then there will be a test for the specific test for the total orthophosphate. Then the difference, then we will take the same procedure for the dissolved phosphate test. Then there will be a difference between the total phosphate test and a dissolved phosphate, and that will give you the insoluble phosphate in a water. Okay, let's come to the fluorides in a water. We have discussed about the nutrient, that is the nitrogen content in a water, then the phosphorus in a water, then the third one is that is not the nutrient, that is the other thing, fluorides in a water, that is very harmful compound in a water. So that we will discuss separately. So basically the fluorides in a water is generally higher concentration of fluoride in a water is not the common. The concentration of fluorides at some point, some levels like the up to 1 milligram per liter will be very beneficial for the growth of the teeth in children, because the fluoride will directly combine with the teeth enamel and causes the stronger teeth. But if there will be a higher levels, so that is the prevalence of fluorides in a water is not common. It dissolves in a water when it comes under contact with the igneous and sedimentary rocks of certain region. Basically it can come in a water at it is in a higher concentration at not the every place in a water on a groundwater. Basically the prevalence of fluorides is generally higher in a groundwater at of some geographical area. This is not basically common for all area. If we will talk about in India, then there is a state Jharkhand, then there will be a city of Dhanbad where there will be a Gharbar village. Wait. So there will be a village called the Gharbar village, which has the fluoride concentration is generally in the fluoride concentration will be nearly 13 or 14 milligram per liter in the range. 13 to 14 milligram per liter. So basically the person or the population residing in that village or that geographical area will be experiencing various skeleton deformity, bone density failure, or there will be the osteoporosis, and there will be some other skeleton and bone deformity. There will be a yellowish of teeth. So these types of problem has been experienced by the people residing in that area of the igneous and sedimentary rocks. So basically the fluoride is an essential for the human and other animals as it required for the development of teeth and a bone. Then the excess fluoride can cause the various health impacts such as the discoloration of a teeth, bone fluorosis and other bone deformities. So up to 1 milligram per liter required for the formation of permanent teeth as it is combined with the tooth enamel. Greater than 1.5 to 2 milligram per liter can cause discoloration or the mottling of teeth in a children, although adults are generally not affected with that. Up to 2 or 2.5 milligram per liter, that will be a more problem for the children but not for the adults. But if the concentration is very higher, like the more than 5 milligram per liter, then that will cause the skeleton deformity and the bone fluorosis. Both children and adults are affected. So as per IS 10500 2012, IS 10500 2012 water quality standards, the permissible limit is 1 milligram per liter, and 1.5 more than 1.5 milligram per liter cause for rejection. So this is the fluorides in a water. So after understanding the concept of fluorides in a water, that has been leached out from the igneous and sedimentary rocks of a certain geographical area. Then what is the limits of permissible limits of fluorides in a water as per IS 10500 2012. Then what is the different types of problems depending upon the concentration of fluorides in a water, like up to some concentration it is required in a water, and more than some concentration, that is more than 2 milligram per liter or the 1.5 milligram per liter, causes various health impacts various health impact for the children as well as adults. And we have also discussed about the geographical area in a Jharkhand state. There will be a Gharbar village in a Dhanbad which has been the fluoride concentration of more than 12 or 13 milligram per liter. So that has been caused various problems. Then after understanding this, we will discuss about the metals in a water in a next separate video. That will the subsequently uploaded in a next phase or after some times. So that is called the metals in a water. So metals generally divided in a two forms. First one is the toxic and a non-toxic metals. So that will be discussed as a separate lecture in which we will discuss about the different metals in a water, like that there will be a 16-17 metals, out of which some are toxic, some are non-toxic. We will also discuss about the permissible limit, its sources, objections in the separate video. Thank you very much. Kindly like, share and subscribe my videos. For the latest updates of my video, press the bell button. Thank you very much.